We are live on Facebook, guys. You ready? So I am joined today with LabCoat moderators David Serpa and Shawneequa Badger. Say hey, guys.
Hi, good morning.
Hello, hello.
And we are joined with David Serpa's business partner, William King. Say hello, William.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? How's it going, world?
All right, and I'm literally just here to facilitate this. This is a David Serpa original project, and once I heard about it, I immediately knew how genius this was. Like, truly, I am so excited. This is the first time the world has ever heard what David and William are about to share. And I think this is a game changer. So we have a little description that we wrote, which says, education and empowerment bring a world of possibilities for the next generation of real estate agents. Right? For experienced agents today, we're going to dive into the current balance of power and ways that you can make a difference while actually making money. This is the new radicalism in real estate. It's a call to arms. And even though they said the revolution wouldn't be televised, this revolution is going to be live on social media. And that's why I'm so excited. Like, David and William, this is truly, when you guys told me this is brilliant. So tell me, what is the revolution about?
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you for doing this follow-up interview. And Shawneequa, thank you for being willing to jump on. You know, we had a conversation a few weeks ago, so I just feel like you have a little bit more of what I have going on. And of course, this is an announcement. William King is my new business partner in this venture, and this is not a Serpa experiment. This is a William King, David Serpa, our community experiment, and this is something that we're doing where we're launching the first 100% agent-owned, agent-led, agent-ran brokerage in our valley, but we're doing it by anchoring into the community. And it is about a revolution, but the first part of it, of course, it's educate, empower, explore, which is what William King came up with. And the first one that we're really diving into is education.
Who are we educating? And that's the question, right?
Sure. And so, you know, who are we educating? Well, historically, there's a whole entire group of people that were not allowed to become realtors. Am I right, Shawneequa Badger?
Absolutely.
And this is something... This is something that we don't talk about. And also, there were a whole group of people that were not allowed to own real estate. And so 8 of the 10 wealthiest zip codes in America are in and around Los Angeles and the Bay Area. And so my goal is to go into these communities that are just outside of the wealthiest communities and educate people who are historically underprivileged so that they can become real estate agents and start working on the largest private redistribution of wealth in American history through real estate. This is an opportunity that has been historically denied through real estate. People are constantly saying, how do we increase Black home ownership? How do we increase Black home ownership, but with grants and with this and with that? And Shawneequa did this great live where she called out Senator Kamala Harris and she just said, this program doesn't work the way that we're running it. And I think that it misses the mark. The problem is not just jumping to fixing Black homeownership, it's about fixing Black wealth. And if you can fix a system which has created a situation where the average Black household has 10% of the average white household's wealth, 170,000 versus 17,000, and most of that is owned through real estate, then we should use real estate as the medium to upset this system.
Shawneequa or William, want to jump in?
Yeah, I agree with David. When first approached by David, it was kind of a mutual. So I said, hey, man, if we're going to do this, we got to do it differently because the number one thing that a lot of people are missing is pretty much education. So when we're educated, we now have the tools in order to move forward. Just like David and Shawneequa had said previously before in the past, we wasn't always afforded those opportunities to be educated. Now with education comes responsibility. So we can be educated all we want, but without any type of application, education means nothing. So that's where the empower comes in. Not only will you be educated, we want to empower you to utilize that education so you can go out and make sound decisions and purchase real estate to create wealth. Because as you know and I know, the majority of wealth in this world is bought through real estate, whether it's commercial or through residential. So if that is the case, why don't we educate more people on the benefits of owning real estate, especially in the Black community? Because if you go into towns like in Southern Louisiana or maybe on the East Coast in South Carolina or Georgia, the majority of people don't own homes. And that's because for so many years, we've been taught that renting is safe, which prohibits or, what stops us from creating more wealth.
And so I know a little bit more about where this is going. And if you want to, explain it in a certain way, but I want to dive into empowerment, right? Because you said education is one thing, but if you don't have an application for that education, what do you do? So I know where you're going with this. I mean, we're going into schools, right? Tell me a little bit about who are the people we're going to educate, and then what are they going to do with that education? Right? Because you can tell people all you want, you should go own homes to make more money. And they're like, great, big deal. I know I should own a home, but how are we going to get them there?
100%. And it's about creating this education that creates a path to wealth that if you follow the systems, it is inevitable. And you cannot do that through just any system. It has to be under the right design. And like I said, this isn't an EXP thing, but it does make it easier to monetize teaching. Teaching is something that is extraordinarily undervalued. Education is something that is extraordinarily undervalued. And if you don't educate, you incarcerate. And I look at people in communities like where I grew up, and they didn't even know that real estate was an option. And so a lot of us waste our 20s, we waste our 30s, we sort of stumble into real estate through from service-related jobs like retail or through restaurants. And we have to understand that these sort of jobs are the largest ones that are impacted through recessions like this one. In the last recession in 2008, 50% of Black wealth was lost. In this recession, Black unemployment remains over 15%, while white unemployment has recovered. And a huge part of that is because people of color are working in a lot of service-related industries. Service-related industries transition wonderfully towards working in real estate. And so in addition to going into high schools, just going into the communities and saying, hey, this is an option. Because when the children go, the parents follow. And the next thing you know, you have parents saying, hey, listen, my kid is in this 15-week semester course, this 15-week course that plugs into their semester, that helps them practice real estate law, real estate principles, real estate practice, receive all 3 of their certificates, and then pass the California state exam. Well, what about me? You know what I mean? And then that's where the education becomes generational.
So just to make sure people watching are very clear, you're literally talking about going into talking to the youth in Black communities and communities that traditionally would not have become real estate agents, and giving them opening their mind to the fact that you could become a realtor, then giving them a pathway for the education in order to go do that. So I want to loop in Shawneequa, right? I mean, how is this something that in Black communities do people talk about becoming realtors? Is this something that it is talked about a lot? Is it not? Is this a good idea, a bad idea? What do you think?
I mean, if you look at, let's bring a little bit historical context into this. And I'll start with myself. When I got into real estate, when I was 26, I am not 26 anymore. But when I got into real estate, I had a friend approach me and he said, Shawneequa, I thought you would be great because you have the personality for it. And I was like, I want to be in real estate. My dad's studying for his real estate license, but there was no sexiness to it. There was no freshness to it. And I thought that it was for a different demographic. And I always tell people to this day when I teach people around the conversation of wealth building is the thing that we heard more than anything else growing up as a kid is go ahead, get through high school, go to college and get a good job. That did not translate into a mentality of wealth building. And so when you are not given the right information, you don't execute at the right levels. So you couple that with lack of, historically, resources, access to credit, or lack of inclusion into real estate, it becomes a place where it's not a warm and fuzzy, and we just don't see inclusion in. So coupling the idea, and in my platform for my business value is built on education because of this one little lack, which actually isn't very little, but it's a lack. And so we try to fill that void. So what this does is this creates a pathway into building generational wealth into areas that we don't necessarily see that contribution happening.
100%.
I love it. So for William, I mean, and I'm going to say something glaringly obvious to everyone watching. David and me are white guys. And I'm just going to say it, right? No one. So I have no idea what it's like, right? Where I grew up, in a different neighborhood was a very different place. So William, I just met you today for the first time. I know you're David's business partner. What is your background? I know you guys both served in our armed forces. What is your background? How'd you get connected with David?
I was connected with David, honestly, by sheer luck. I met David at a Christmas party, I think it was 2019. And I've always heard about David. He was the king of the mountain in real estate at one point. And then we actually met at a urinal.
Is this story safe to tell? Okay.
He was doing his thing. I was doing my thing. He went to wash his hands. And then I said, hey, you're David Serpa. And he said, yeah, I'm David Serpa. And I said, dude, it's an honor to meet you. I've always seen it. I've always seen you around. I've always wanted to talk to you, but I've never reached out. But I'm glad that we met. And he said, yeah, me too. And then we just got into small talk about just about real estate. And then he said, well, hopefully we can connect sometime in the future. I said, great. In my mind, I knew, I said, man, somehow, some way I got to collaborate with David in the future. And I don't know how. Fast forward 6-7 months go by, and I'm thinking about transitioning from my current position. And I called David just for advice. He comes to my office and we just started talking. And the 20-minute meeting led to a 2 or 3 hour appointment, and we just started brainstorming.
Yes.
But this was sure luck. This is nothing that was premeditated, nothing David premeditated or myself. This was sure luck. And it turns out we kind of had the same ideas, and we had an equal balance of power when it came to how we thought real estate should be ran, how we thought business should be ran, how we thought that the people that were lacking in real estate and needed to be more involved was primarily the Black community. So like myself, I grew up on the in the South, on the East Coast. I've never even heard of a real estate agent. I didn't know realtors existed, you know? I didn't know you could even buy a home growing up throughout high school. I thought everyone paid rent. My mother, she owned a double wide trailer. And for those that's on the East Coast, they're not familiar with the term double wide. But double wide is just a mobile home that's put together and you put on a plot of land. So my mother brought one of those for like $30,000. And I thought that she was completely wasting her money, but because then she got it foreclosed like 2 years later. Okay. So I always thought, nope, never doing that. Buying a home is a bad idea. You know, that's how you get into debt. I don't want $100,000 of debt. And then when I came to California throughout the military, there's no way I was buying a house. No way. My mom paid $30,000 for a house. And over here, the price had went 10x. Like, no, never, you know? But that was my lack of knowledge. And if I go back home today to the rest of my colleagues that I graduated high school with who still lives there, it's pretty much probably the same thing. I would say probably 2 or 3 of them own homes, if that. And they just don't have the proper knowledge and the proper education to go out and be different. We need to create a system to where we can affect generational wealth. So not only today, but for the next generation. So therefore, this curse is broken, because it was taught from me that you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, and you work until you retire. Okay. As we know through real estate, we can do something different. It's good to go to college. I'm not discrediting that. Me, myself, I have 4 degrees. I'm probably one of the most educated realtors I know, even to the point where I finished, I'll be Dr. King in January. Okay, I have my PhD in January. One of the most educated realtors I know. But that's not the only pathway to success, you know? So if we got more of the Black communities involved in real estate at a younger age, and we target them through high school, it's more apparent through the parents that we can change our generational routine.
And if I could also say that it's interesting in my journey into real estate, that I find that a lot of people that I know bought homes, including my parents, bought homes only because they knew that was the thing to do. They had no idea the reasoning behind it.
Right.
They had no idea about, let me pass on a legacy, let me have a transference of my wealth. None of that conversation came into play. It's like, you bought a house just to live, right? Mm-hmm. But this interesting is the spirit when they did buy a home, it was so relentless. It was amazing. It was no like, let's disrupt the system, let's create an economy. It was none of that. It was like, hey, we need to buy a house. And if I would have said, well, why do you need to buy a house? I don't know, we need to buy a house. That's what everybody else does.
Correct. And I think that that's a big part of like what Jesse's talking. This is the revolution. The revolution is education. And so congratulations to William. He's actually buying another house today. That's why he's in his car right now. And he said, should I wear a suit? And I said, hey man, you do what you got to do. He goes, I'm literally moving today. So congratulations to him. And so it was really this beautiful thing where I was thinking about leaving my business and accepting a job somewhere. And then William and I met, we had this collaboration, and I'm very hippy dippy, NorCal, bounced around everywhere. I lived in, all over the Bay Area. I lived in Fresno, but I lived in Section 8 housing. My mom lives in a Habitat for Humanity house now. And I've been homeless with my family. And so it was something that for me, buying a house was a big deal. Like I had no idea until I heard that another Lance Corporal bought a house. And so I think that like sort of shattering that thought process of not just buying a house, but who is buying and selling real estate, like Shawneequa was talking about. It's a different dynamic. And when you think about it right now, you think about the people hanging out on wineries, having golf charities. And I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true. That is not sexy. That is not interesting. That is not
it can be sexy. I mean, I do that too, but I also get I also get in the mud and revolutionize the people behind it. There's a balance. Don't take away my wine, Serpa.
No, but I'm not trying to take away your wine just because I don't like your wine. It's just not my substance.
Right, but I think what you guys are all driving at, for anyone watching this, I want to transition into how the people watching can get involved also, because this is where the revolution happens. It starts with an idea at a urinal of all places, which is hilarious. Okay, so and it kind of grows, and this is what happens with ideas. So I didn't grow up with nothing. I didn't. I mean, I'm grateful because I grew up privileged, and what I know that means is my parents were business owners, and so my only framework with which I see the world is that you just start a business. That was normal to me. And you guys, I'm sure everyone watching has heard this. You are the average. Your income is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So think about it. If you're hanging out with people and no one else buys a house, it's not even, like William said, it's not even your frame of reference. You just are going to rent. So if we can shift this and actually start at the youth level and start to create a culture where you have an opportunity to go continue to make enough money to buy real estate. Go ahead, David.
But I think it's actually bigger than that. It's bigger than buying a house. And that's where we kind of continue to get lost as real estate agents. It's about creating generational wealth through opportunity. And one of the best opportunities right now coming into this post-boomer boom, coming into the third great migration, is the fact that people are buying and selling a great deal of real estate. We've been declared essential in just about every state, if not every state that there is. And this is a career field that is growing. There's a lot of opportunity in it, no matter what the market is doing. So I want to make sure that that opportunity is getting into the right places, into the right generation. And I'm sorry, but millennials and Generation Z really entered into a very sad job market. And so it is about the youth as well. And so when you look at every war that has been fought throughout world history, it's been fought over real estate, predominantly over real estate. And so my business partner, my friend here, who just so happens to be Dr. King here in the spring, just saying it like it is, also happens to be a machine gunner like myself, also happens to be a combat veteran like myself. So he is a radical. I know that he's going to go to the distance with me. But the thing is what we can do as radicals is go in and out-recruit the military-industrial complex. If I could go into a community and say, hey, would you like to go, participate in a real estate club or a real estate school? Whether if it's during the hours, depending on the community, some city councils want it to be real estate school. They want it during school hours for people that are not necessarily going to college next year. Other groups that I'm talking about, they want it as an after-school program, and then we're talking about real estate club. So whether it's real estate club or it's real estate school, it's taught 5 to 6 instructional hours a week, and it's taught with 3 to 4 home hours a week, and then it culminates with somebody getting their real estate license when they exit high school. And so then that way I could go and I could out-recruit a Marine Corps recruiter. No offense, but I could say, hey, listen, look at his stack on his chest. He didn't go anywhere that he's telling you to go. He didn't see any action that he's telling you to go see. You don't have to go do pull-ups. You could sell real estate. You know what I mean? And so anyway, it's this recruiting, it's this training, it's education. And so if you're interested, it's not just about real estate, although that's a big part of it. If you're a lender and this is an educational platform that you want to help launch, contact your localities, see what you can do about getting involved. Because right now it's about helping people who are entering this hostile job market to feed themselves.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. It sounds like you're going to need a lot of teachers.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So William or David, will you touch on that? Because one, who should they reach out to? And two, because every single person watching this has a few basic needs. You guys know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Everybody knows that. You got to like put a roof over your head, right? You got to get food, right? As you move up the hierarchy, a lot of people watching this are already making money. They know how to sell houses. They're at the top of the pyramid where they need significance and contribution. If you want to give back to a community, right? Whether you grew up in that community or not, it still impacts the world in a positive way. Here's how you can get involved. Or let's say you're still on the earlier stage, we're just trying to figure out how to feed yourself. There are economic opportunities here you can make money at the same time as giving back. So William, David, which one of you guys wants to take this? How do people get involved?
So for starters, myself and David, we're still in the early stages. We're still creating a foundation to give people a platform so they can take off and run with it. So if you want to get involved, we're probably up and running probably within the next 3 to 4 months. The person you need to contact is myself and David, okay? Because what we're going to be looking for, seasoned real estate agents that understands real estate practice, real estate principles, real estate finance, to volunteer their time into teaching these classes. So we have a huge battle in front of us. This is by no means easy. We're trying to get into the schools. We're trying to get into the high schools. We're trying to catch them in their junior, senior year to teach them this semester of real estate. So therefore it is impactful. So if you want to get involved, give us a call, myself and David, or send us a private message on Facebook and let us know that you want to be involved.
So there's a couple of things.
If you feel like you have a higher purpose, you've already made a lot of money in real estate and now you're ready to give back, give us a call so we can get you plugged in.
We're either going to be partnering with a real estate school that is currently existing, or we're actually going to be starting our own real estate school by working with a publishing company that's recognized in all 50 states. And so once we have this instructor code, we can give people that will make it so that they can start applying for their pre-licensing instructor's certificate. And this makes it so that they can become certified instructors with our school to go and teach in the high schools or in the colleges. But I really want to get into the high schools because I feel like that's where you break that education to incarceration unit, and then you make it an education to generational wealth platform. So, and then one more thing, we're not necessarily looking for people. So it would sound like we were asking you to volunteer, right? Traditionally, if you're teaching, but the truth is I'm not looking for you to volunteer. I'm looking for you to invest your time in the next generation and then bank on the fact that that will pay dividends. There is not a lot of ways to monetize teaching, but one of the ways that we can do that is through recruiting. And this is not an EXP platform. If you want to do this with a different platform, that's fine. You're just going to have difficulty handling the amount of people that you're bringing on. And so the goal is to create a platform where we're not saying no to anybody. We're not saying, hey, we're only taking 4, we're only taking 8. But instead we could say, not only are we taking everyone who's applied, but also people who need scholarships. And so I don't believe in the military industrial complex. I don't believe in the nonprofit industrial complex. Nonprofits have been used to de-radicalize us. And so we have to use our businesses to become radical. And so I'm not looking for this balance. I'm looking to be absolutely 100% passionately dedicated to a cause. And you can do that by saying, hey, listen, I am going to monetize this by X, however you need to monetize it. For me, it's by being with EXP. And then that way, when you walk in, you're not sounding like a good-hearted person. Oh, I'm here to volunteer my time because I just believe. You sound like an investor. You sound like a real estate person and an entrepreneur by saying, say, some of you are going to graduate, you're going to go work for your parents. Some of you are going to graduate, you're going to start your own brokerage. But some of you are going to graduate and you're going to work with EXP, and that's great too. This is, in part, a recruiting platform. You have to monetize your radicalism or you will be choked out the second that you become effective.
Those are powerful words, man. I want to change gears because I want to loop Shawneequa in here. And I just want to be real with people watching this, okay? What are the challenges they're going to face? right? I mean, like William said, this is not easy. This is not like wave a magic wand and suddenly it's fixed. What do you think the challenge is? Let's be real. What are the challenges they're going to face?
Well, I mean, a lot of the things that we're still seeing is the systemic shortcomings of our society. There's no other ways to kind of frame that conversation. There's still undervaluing of our communities that we still have to fight for. There is still redlining, steering, and we have to understand what that looks like. We have to be able to have conversations with people, like David said, that are bigger than just home ownership. Because I think home ownership puts people in a box and they don't, and then here we are with the limited thinking of that's all that we're focusing on. We have to really start having a different conversation that's changing the narrative in our communities. And also, having some personal accountability. And I can say this as a practitioner, and I can say this as a person of the community, that sometimes we need to change our own personal accountability about what is our role in this and how do we participate in this, even though this is not our narrative. So we have to create some expectations about what this is going to look like. But we also have to make sure that we're arming people with the right information so they can fight the fight as it needs to be fought. And unfortunately, it is very shocking to me how there are people that look like me that don't know when bias is in front of them, that don't understand when racism is in front of them or their clients. Right. And it's very important to have these conversations on platforms like this, because we hear it and we see it when there's something that's posted in LCA, and I'm going to go ahead and be brave and have a conversation about this. But we see things posted in LCA and people say that this is not our reality. Our industry is not like this. Well, it's not like that because your clients are not having to deal with it, and you as a practitioner are not having to deal with it because of the environment in which real estate sales was created. So it does not affect you or impact you like it does me. I was just dealing with it last week. And I had somebody that said in LCA here recently, like, oh, I'm just so tired of us always talking about racism. I was like, well, be Black in America and you can feel some real exhaustion. So we have to continue to have these kind of conversations and help and figure out where the help is. And what is our place of contribution? And that's a huge part of LCA, is where is our contribution in lifting people as we climb? And so, I mean, I think this is really part of us healing, because if we heal through access, it is really a powerful thing. And I think we all have a role to play in this. But in us playing this role, we have to understand the areas in which it could pull those people who are underserved or marginalized back in the process, so we can again help pull them up as we climb.
I really believe that, healing starts the moment that you're heard. And there's a lot of people that are unheard right now. And so when I show up and I show up to these, and I'm not going to get into this, I'm not going to make it too political, but you have to show up to listen and to support people and not just to be a mouthpiece. And so a systemic injustice requires a systemic response. And so what better vehicle than through real estate? When I was advocating on behalf of veterans in Washington, D.C., I grew out a huge beard, I had long hair, and I would walk in and I would talk to these senators and these congressmen or their aides, and they would immediately judge me the moment that I walked in. It would take about 5 to 10 minutes for them to be like, oh, he's educated and intelligent, and I could trust him. He's not just a homeless guy that found a suit. And so it took me overcoming that barrier regularly. And then I started thinking, well, what about people who just can't shave their face and cut their hair and become more presentable, to become more palatable for the American palate, for the businessman, which is white and tall and Caucasian, and that's power and that's authority. And so I decided, hey, instead of rebelling against myself constantly and rebelling against, what God gave me to work with, I'm going to cut my hair, I'm going to shave my face, and I'm going to wear a tie, because you could be significantly more radical with the tie on. I could say things that people will swallow that other people will not swallow because of my appearance.
Well said, man. There is more power to changing from inside the institution sometimes than from being shunned on the outside.
Correct.
And as you're speaking, I'm listening to this. Every time I hear, I don't want to get political. This isn't a political conversation. This is a humanity conversation. This is a people conversation. It's not political. It's not. It's my opinion, but I don't think politics has anything to do with this.
No, it's not political until people make it political. How I get up and live every day is not politics. This is who I am. I don't get up and say I'm going to put on my blue suit or my red suit or my yellow suit. I don't get to pick and choose this. This is who I am. This is the life that my child wakes up to every day. Yeah. And so it is something that is political to you because it's uncomfortable. Let's make that clear. Or it's how you choose to categorize it so you can digest it easier. But it is absolutely not political. Jesse, you are absolutely right. It's a humanitarian issue, and we each have a role to play in this, and we have to figure out what that role is. And again, I think that this is a great space for David and William to help bridge the gap. And I think it is we all have a charter, and we got to figure out what that is.
Love it. David, William, you guys got any? I feel like we should wrap it up. So we could talk for hours. Honestly, I know David and I have talked for hours. I feel like we should wrap this up at least to give people some direction. Any thoughts, anything you guys want to communicate that you haven't had a chance to share yet? William, anything you want to say? And then David?
Well, we have to remember, we've been conditioned to believe that knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. The true power is the application of knowledge. And that's when power really comes into play. So we have to remember that as we continue to go forward. And as we continue to go forward, we got to remember that, once again, Jesse, this is not an easy thing. This is going to be a constant uphill battle. So everyone's dedication to support through our efforts would be truly appreciated.
Love it. David, you got anything that you want to communicate you haven't said yet?
William and I are opening up our own office here in the Temecula Valley, and we're going to be making that really big announcement here very shortly. But it's going to be a hub really to operate for the state of California, for our agents, kind of a launching off platform to show people what we're anchoring into, because this is part of it. Another part of it is media. You have to really, in order to have a say in the narrative, you have to be able to control the narrative. And so we have a lot of different things that we're going to be working on to really anchor into the community, education, empowering people, and exploring new ways to wealth generationally for everybody. And so it's a huge part of the narrative starts and ends with the Black community, absolutely. But this is something that we have to have outside of it in order to be effective, because as Betty Shabazz says, she says, you have to want, the best gift that a man can have is a true brother. If you have to want the same thing for your brother that you want for yourself. And until we get to there, we're going to be misguided. We're going to be living in fear, and we're going to be living in an us versus them mentality, and we won't be solving a whole lot of problems.
And that's what I'm grateful about being involved in this conversation with you guys, truly. I mean, I have no idea what it's like to walk in your shoes. I don't know what it's like to be a Black man or a Black woman in America. But the more often we have these conversations, the more it helps, and the more people listen to this, it helps you to see another point of view, and it just helps to raise that dialogue. I think it truly is one of the most important, if not the most important conversation we can be having right now. So guys, thank you, truly, thank you for having me involved in this conversation. Shawneequa, you have any final thoughts you want to, before we wrap up here?
No, I think we are industry leaders. My coach tells me we are leaders and teachers, and look at this conversation. It epitomizes that exact thing. And I think that we are all it is an honor to be able to say that we are part of the LabCoatAgents family, to be able to have this voice and to extend this voice, and also extend this to other people to say, hey, beyond the marching, what do we do? What can we do to help? This is a solution. We operate in a place of solution every day in what we do, getting people into homes. But this is a different paradigm shift of what we can do to really create a better place for all of us that exist.
I love it. So thank you to LabCoatAgents. Thank you to Nick and Tristan for being brave and allowing this conversation to happen. I mean, truly, it's a bold conversation. So David, William, Shawneequa, thanks guys. This is a great conversation.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye, everyone.